That was such a great episode. Why didn't more people listen? Sometimes I feel like, is this thing even on? Hi, my name is Neil Matthews. I too have been exactly what I just described. Wondering and wanting a second set of ears to hear my show. Well, that's when I came up with Podcast Insight Solutions, providing you insight and solutions into your show. Whether that be improving your interview style, improving your questions, getting the guests to really come alive, or maybe it's the audio. That's always a little shaky, or maybe it's the editing. I could get better at that. Well, that's where Podcast Insight Solutions comes in. I'd like to listen to your show, provide a second set of ears, and help you come up with solutions to those problem areas in your show. Right now, we're offering a free 30-minute consultation to take your show from meh to shining like a diamond. At Podcast Insight Solutions, we're transforming podcasts with expert insight. Book your consultation today.
Welcome home to Other People's Shoes, where every step tells a story. Get ready for an emotional journey like no other with Homecoming. Our homes are more than just a place. It's where we find safety, comfort, and connection through intimate conversations, heartfelt anecdotes, and inspiring stories. We believe that everyone deserves to feel welcomed and secure in their own home. Let us remind you of the beauty and warmth that home should bring. Other People's Shoes, where every step leads you to Homecoming.
Welcome home to Other People's Shoes. I am your host, Neil Matthews. Thank you so much for coming home today. Really excited that you are. Let me tell you, one of the favorite things that I have in my office is a dogwood tree. Now, it's artificial. All you green thumbers out there, just calm down. I can't take care of a real dogwood tree, so I have the next best thing. It's this amazing thing. Every day I would leave work and it was a rough day, or it was a bad day, or it was just a no right, good down, just awful day. I'm the only one that ever has those, I'm sure. I'm alone in that. My canoe is just me and my paddle right now. No one else is relating, I'm sure. I read this story years ago. This guy was having a hard day and he would give over things to the tree and not take it home with him. So I thought that story was so impactful to me. I went out and found, of course, it has to be a dogwood tree. Now, for those of you who maybe aren't with it quite yet, maybe you're still like 70 episodes behind. It's okay. You can catch up. They're on demand. The dogwood tree for me means North Carolina. And when I think of North Carolina, my heart it goes a little bit faster. It gets a little more excited. When I get a chance to talk North Carolina, I'm not going to say it's on the level of my wife, Elizabeth, but it is darn near close. And it's probably third only to speaking of Jesus. So outside of that, I did not know this prior to our recording. Had I known, might have changed the dynamic a lot. But I am going to call her my friend because that's what we do. Help me welcome in my new friend, Kim. Kim, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Well, again, I just feel like research didn't really do me a solid on telling me that you are not just in Raleigh, or Raleigh, yes, depending on how you want to say it. I say Raleigh.
Raleigh is correct.
But you do bleed red, and everyone does. But your red may be a little darker and may howl a little bit when you maybe bleed, because you are...
It does.
I won't say arch nemesis, because that would mean that you're kind of on the level with us. You are from North Carolina State and the Wolfpack. I have to acknowledge that, and I have to also say Megan Newkirk would really just absolutely love you, because she too is a Stater, and she always gives me a bad time about being a Tar Heel. So there we are.
We have a Wolfpacker right now at school, and so we got to root for the Wolfpack. It's a great school.
Do I have to?
Well, you should, because they're amazing. Go Pack. They almost won the Final Four this year. Almost made it all the way.
They did. They beat some amazing teams along the way. They really took over the ACC in an amazing way in that tournament last year. All my friends were texting me saying, how do you feel about that? I'm like, wrong school. We are university. We're not state. It's close. They're close together somewhat. Is this true of Wolfpack fans everywhere? Do you guys still disdain Duke as much as I do, or is that a misnomer?
I think they do. You know, I don't really know. I don't really know. I just know that go Pack. Nobody else but the Pack.
That's all Mom cares about.
That's all I care about.
I should acknowledge that.
And it took me a while. I know nobody can see me, but it took me a while to get the
hand
right
signal.
Yes, the hand signal right. I would do it wrong, and my daughter's like, Mom, come on. Got to get the hand right. So
cringe, Mom. You're cringe right now.
I know, cringe. Yeah.
You don't have the riz to do the hand signal, correct? Apparently.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Just too old, I
Just
guess.
too old. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kim, thanks so much for giving up some time today and being with us. Really want to obviously acknowledge the fact that your daughter did get into a very good school. Anytime somebody goes to college, we should at least acknowledge that, all kidding, joking aside.
Well, I told you she did get into UNC too, but chose the Wolfpack. So
Okay, I take back everything I just said nice about your daughter. All of it's gone. Just shift, delete, gone. In this series, Homecoming, which again sparks from this moment coming back home in my mind to North Carolina, being that I was born actually in Jacksonville, Camp Lejeune area. Yes, I drank the water. Stop asking. The idea of going back to Chapel Hill just gets me excited. I took so many pictures, and my wife said to me at Christmas time, because that was part of our deal, is if I went, that was kind of Christmas present, birthday, and all the things, Hanukkah, Passover, whatever holiday she could jam in there so she didn't have to buy for me, she did. She goes, so now when you feel like don't have a present, just look through your phone.
There you go.
There's your present.
There you go.
So, but I had such a great time in that Raleigh area. Help us with this. When you think of coming home, and maybe this comes to mind for you, when you come home, do you take your shoes off before you come into your house? And if so, what shoes might we find maybe by your front door if you were to kick them off before you came inside?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, you know what? I probably don't take my shoes off because I'm kind of on the go a lot. I might run in and run back out. But when I come home and I know I'm staying home, I definitely take off my shoes. And if I have been out at the ranch, I most likely am, depending on whether I am just in a meeting with the staff, I might be more casual in my sneakers or my comfortable flip-flop. If I'm meeting with a donor, I might have a little fancier shoe on. But I definitely, when I come home and I'm staying home, take them off. I love being barefoot.
That's your footwear of choice, is barefoot over anything else.
Yeah, or flip-flops.
Oh,
I have, oh my gosh, what are they called? I can't remember the name of my flip-flops, but they're super comfortable. So,
well, if you think of them, let us know, because we're always trying to get some.
Olakais.
Olakais. Okay.
Yes.
I haven't heard of those yet.
They have like a little bit of a ridge and they really kind of fit into your foot really well. Yeah. And I got them at Emerald Isle at the beach, which is really beautiful.
I am a big shoe guy. And so you might imagine I wear a lot of Jordans shoes. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows why? I mean, especially if they're a shade of blue. And in fact, I just got a new to me pair of Vans, and they're not the normal Vans. They actually have a little bit of a height to them, and they're cushy. And so I feel like I can be hip again because I can wear Vans, which is kind of like our show logo back in the day when we first started. So kind of makes me think nostalgically of the show.
And they're very popular now too.
They are. They're making a comeback. When you think of coming home, and again, maybe not shoe reference, but when you think of homecoming in that regard.
Well, I would say that I'm a homebody. I love being home. A lot of people think I'm an extrovert, but I'm actually an introvert. Being at home, I've got a beautiful screen porch, and we've got an acre property, just lots of trees, and just really, really beautiful and serene. And so that's just like my special place where I can really relax and unwind and kind of process and rejuvenate myself.
But you guys did something very unique out there in North Carolina for me. By the way, you don't sound like you're from North Carolina. On a side note, I just want to acknowledge that. I don't hear that accent.
I know. I grew up in Ohio, but I do.
Oh, there it is.
I do say y'all. I've been here for 26 years, so I consider myself a local. And y'all is something that I say.
Well, allow the y'all in there, but I don't hear any Carolinian in you. So there that is. But that makes sense. You're a Buckeye. I get it. It's fine.
Yeah. I am.
You guys are doing some unique stuff. You mentioned the ranch and being on the ranch. Help me understand the ranch. What do you do there? I mean, I know there's horses and there's some things involved. What does the ranch really mean when you say the ranch?
It's funny that you talk about coming home. And, I think most of us equate home with safety. I didn't as a kid. That's like our primary thing at Hope Reins. So at Hope Reins, we work with kids that are experiencing trauma and life crisis. And we pair them with horses that have been rescued from their own abuse and neglect. And we pair them together with a mentor to help these kids find hope and healing. And the very first thing that everybody tells us when they drive up or step foot on our ranch is it's like coming home. It's safety and security, and it's serene and it's calm. So many of our families that may not know the Lord will say, there's something out here. There's something really special. There's something so peaceful. And we know that's the Holy Spirit. It's this beautiful, serene place. If kids don't feel safe, they can't heal. So that is really, really important for us to always have a place of safety and security for them.
Well, I think that's what was so fascinating to me about the work that you guys do, is the idea that you're giving kids that have walked through maybe the most horrific thing in their life to date, and you're providing a healing opportunity for them and a safe place. Kids today seem like they're so much less important than any category of life that we're in. We don't care about the old people, and we can treat kids like trash and that they are an item. And it's like, they're not. They're our legacy. They're who we're going to leave this world to.
Absolutely.
In your mind, and maybe in your opinion, what's wrong with our system with kids and maybe with parents, and why kids are getting neglected in your mind?
That's a really great question. I mean, I can tell you that the mental health crisis has never been worse for kids, right? I mean, it's just never been worse. And we don't have enough resources to help kids in crisis. North Carolina, which I know you joke about loving North Carolina, and I love it too. It's my home state. We rank in almost last place for providing mental health services for kids in the entire United States. So what that means is when kids do have a crisis, they don't have anywhere to go. And the kids maybe who have means or money or insurance get prioritized in that. I think our world has just gotten very dark. I agree with you. I think that a lot of times people don't prioritize kids. I think part of it is the confusion that we have now in our world. There's so much confusion for kids. And I think the rise of social media, I think COVID, I think all of those things. I look at my own kids. I've got my hand in front of my face, just like glued to their phone, and the non-reality of what they see all of the time, and not having that social, that relational connection, which is what we do out at our ranch. We're about relationship, building first with a horse, a safe way, and then with their mentor, and then with other peers. We're losing the opportunity for kids to build relationship and connection with each other, which I think is a big part of the problem.
I have a hard time as a parent. I have a 17-year-old senior now. I can say that with confidence. Senior. I'm hoping we can make it to June. It seems like a long way away, but I'm hoping we can make it to June.
Senior year goes fast.
Hard to get mad at her, my daughter Adia, when she's like this. Phone in front of them, phone in front of their face. When I look in the mirror and I'm like, that's me. That's me too. That's me too. And so that's the hard part, is how do you parent when it's the pot calling the kettle black, kind of thing.
I know.
And that's the hard part. And so we'll set that aside and maybe press forward that we all could work on that. I think all collectively, all of us together can. Your life maybe growing up wasn't the Hallmark movie, wasn't the Walton's Family Adventure. I'm sure it wasn't the Partridge Family. Maybe it was Donnie and Marie in some spots. I don't know. Maybe you guys weren't that musical. I don't know. Would old you, let's say 8-year-old you, recognize the you now?
Oh, no. I mean, the 8-year-old me was very traumatized, very withdrawn, never felt safe in her own home. My dad was an alcoholic and very abusive, and my mom just ignored it. I would ask, like, why is dad so mad? Like, what is happening? And she would just gloss over, oh, everything's fine. He's not. And so it made me really kind of feel insane in some respects. Like, I couldn't trust my own feelings, what I was living in and what I was being told. So it's just this real disconnect in that for me in growing up.
Have you ever thought about going back, and if you could spend like a weekend with the 8-year-old you, what you would tell her?
Oh, actually, yeah. I somebody asked me that, and I've actually had a lot of therapy and really processed through that. And I would tell her that there is a God that loves her so much and cares so much about what she's going through, hates the hurt that she's experiencing, but is with her in that pain, has a great plan and purpose for her life.
Do you like Chris Tomlin?
I love Chris Tomlin.
Do you?
Yeah. Of course.
I mean, he's a pretty good songwriter.
He's a pretty good songwriter.
Would you say? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You like a lot of his stuff? You jam out to it or worship out to it? There's one song, though, that I think he needs to stop playing and maybe delete from his catalog. Just one.
Which one?
It's this one I can't sing to save my life, and I'm glad my salvation doesn't rest on my ability to sing, because I'd be kicked out of American Idol and maybe even heaven. But he says, you're a good father.
Mm-hmm.
It's who you are.
Yes.
It's who you are.
Yep. And
I'm like, but he's not. Because if he is a good father, why wouldn't he stop the stuff with your dad happening?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he help my dad love me more when I was 8?
Yeah.
Why does he allow childhood cancer
Mhm. Yeah.
And I struggle with that song because our church seems to sing it every stinking Sunday I'm there, which is a lot because I
Mhm.
work in our youth and our middle school. And
Mhm.
it's now gotten to the point where the sound people just kind of look at me and wink or maybe even nudge me in the lobby and is like, hey, and
Yeah.
I know it's coming. And I stand there and I'm just fuming.
Yeah. Well, do you know how I know he's a good father?
Please tell me.
Like I mentioned, as a child that grew up in a alcoholic abusive home, for whatever reason, I think kids in trauma, they either self-destruct, they go inward and self-destruct, or they choose to perform. And I went the performance route. And for some reason, guess what my dad bought me?
A pony?
A horse. Yeah, he bought me a horse. My horse was the place that I felt safe, that I felt comforted. It was the only time that I felt safe. My horse was the only thing I ever whispered my secrets to, and the only thing I ever told my secrets of what was happening in my house. I have such vivid memories of just him bunching on his hay or being outside grazing and just pouring my heart out. What happened, many years of performance in my teens and my 20s, came to know Jesus long time ago, left my horse. And what has God done? Given me in 2010 the idea and the ability to start this ministry where kids get to come out and be comforted and connected to a horse for their redemption. So that's what God did for me. I didn't know Jesus then. My parents didn't have a faith, but he resurrected that passion for me after I came to know the Lord. That's the good that he's brought out of my story. And there's probably 3,000 or 4,000 kids that we have served across the North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, that have experienced hope and healing because I went through what I went through when I was a kid.
Wow.
And God doesn't want bad things to happen to us. He loves us. We let evil in the world. I believe he's good.
Yeah, and I was just pushing on that, by the way, because it's fun.
Oh, I know.
Okay, all
I
right,
know.
just check
I
out.
know. And by the way, a little known thing, Chris Tomlin did not write that song.
I
Pat
know
Barrett
I
wrote
know he
that song.
didn't, but he sings
Pat-
it.
He does sing it, and he sings it very well.
I don't know about that even.
Just to know
Come
little
on.
trivia if you didn't know who really wrote the song.
Well, that guy shouldn't have wrote it either.
Oh.
I have encountered so many people in this series alone that have told me countless times that God is good.
Mhm.
God is great. Our previous season to this one was called Dear, and I sat with a lady who had 17 miscarriages.
Mm.
And I'm just like, but how is that a good God? And again, I'm not a
Mhm.
theologian. I
Yeah.
don't have the doctorates in the Greek and all the Hebrew and the Aramaic
Yeah.
all under my belt, fluent in. I barely can string 7 sentences together and make them sound. It's the idea that I think people then look at our faith or look at us as an individual and they say, okay, your God is so great. Why does he? And then they start picking apart the why is he?
Yeah.
Even in your situation, he provides the resources to get a horse. Because I'd imagine that's not a cheap venture
No. Yeah.
to house it, to feed it, to take care of it. Again, not a cheap thing to do. I mean, it's quite the undertaking. Then to have all of those abilities kind of, again, line up nicely for you. And then to have that ability with the horse to say, okay, here is my stuff. Here is my baggage. You had a horse. I had a stuffed animal named Panda. Kind of similar idea. Told that bear everything. If that bear could talk now, well, I'd be in trouble. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
For you, when you think about the work that you guys have done on the ranch, think about the hope that you, again, have provided. Is there a story that comes to mind? They were rough, man. That was going to be a rough ride, and we knew that. That was going to be a tough one. Then you got to see kind of the end result of that.
Oh my gosh. We've been around for 15 years now, and we're working on 15 years of impact. And we're going back to our kids that we served in the early days that are now thriving adults. And we've got so many incredible stories there with those kids. One of the ones that I'll tell you that's a little more recent is, and we have permission to share all these stories. There was a little girl named Lily and her little brother, and they lived here in Raleigh. And Lily's mom was an addict and was overdosing and dying on the couch. And at 5 years old, she picked up the phone and called 911 and got her mom rescued and saved her life. And DSS came and took them from the home, put them in foster care, which sometimes can be a good situation. And unfortunately for she and her little brother, it was not. And the woman, the caretaker, the foster care person, was keeping Lily's little brother, who was 3 at the time, locked in a dog cage. cage for punishment. This was on the news here. And here's this little girl, so brave. She finds an iPad, takes a photo of her brother in this dog cage, finds a safe adult and shows them the picture and gets them rescued out of this situation. She and her little brother ended up getting adopted by a very loving family. Where do you go for that kind of trauma? Like what do you do? Her parents found Hope Reins. The number one thing that we do is when kids come with their parents for kind of their initial tour, we take them around and introduce them to all the horses. And every child gets to say yes to our program. If they aren't ready to heal, they're not going to heal. And so even at 5 years old to 18, they all get to choose. They get to opt in and say yes. And so Lily and her brother were having their tour. And when she first came through our gate, she was like standing in front of her brother. I mean, imagine like she's the protector. She's always had to protect him. And what is this place? And who are these people? And as they're going on this tour, they start walking down the fence line. And we have all of our horses live in these dry lots where they have a shelter where they get to go in and go under the shelter. And one of our horses, his name is Hero, was sleeping under the shelter. And so as Joanne was making her way down, giving a tour to the family and introducing them to the different horses, all of a sudden Hero gets up from sleeping, comes walking straight over and makes a beeline for Lily, puts his head over the fence right on her chest and just sighed, big sigh, and said, "I choose you." And everybody was weeping, Neil, including Lily. I mean, she couldn't believe it that this horse just walked all the way over and chose her. That's what happens sometimes. Most times a kid chooses a horse because the story connects. Sometimes a horse chooses a child. But one of the things we had to process with her in her session, and this is where God comes in, that we can't make these stories up. We had to say, "Hey, Lily, what's the horse's name that chose you? Hero. And who are you? You're a hero. You got your mom saved. You got your brother saved. Just all the intricacies of there. And then she gets to start to feel safe. The 4 things horses teach humans, trust, communication, boundaries, and leadership, are the resiliency skills that we're teaching these kids. So they help the kids heal. And then they get to carry those skills into their life because they are going to have other hard things happen. They have really healthy resiliency skills to bounce back on. And Lily is thriving. She and her little brother are thriving today. And I can't remember what grade she's in now. Yeah, she's just doing fantastic.
Makes me think of that John Michael Montgomery song from all those years ago, talking about a little girl being abused and neglected, and her parents end up killing themselves. And then she moves away to a new town and a new home. Yeah. And she goes to church for the first time, and she tells the Sunday school teacher, "I don't know that man there on that cross, but I know he got off because he was there the night my parents died." It breaks my heart that people are so mean to kids.
I know. It breaks my heart too, Neil. I mean, it's horrible to think about what's happened to our horses. It's more horrible to think about the same things are happening to our kids, the same abuse and neglect. It's really horrible. And we can't change that. We can help them heal. What Harvard has done this huge study on kids and trauma. And when you don't heal from your childhood trauma, you can most likely become the homeless and the incarcerated and the addicted and have mental illness. And so we're really changing the trajectory of these kids' lives. And it's just really, really vital work.
It's a starfish.
Yeah.
And to me, it makes me think of those starfish that got washed up on the shore that needed to be put back in the ocean because they can't live on the land. And the little boy throwing them back in and people scoffing and saying, "You can't make a difference with all of them." And he goes, "No, but I can with this one," and throws it back in. Yeah. To me, that's what it's about, is those starfish moments in life where, again, we can make a difference.
Yeah.
Kim, I say this with respect. You're not getting any younger.
Yeah.
You mentioned you're a college student. So I know you're kind of getting up there,
Yeah.
Who do you pass the baton to with Hope Reins? Has your mind allowed to go there? Does your team talk about that? Okay.
Oh, for sure.
Because it sounds like you're doing great work. I would hate for it to stop on you,
We have some really great staff, and I think there's some people there that could do it. I would love it if one of our kids came back and did it. That would be really fantastic. Really, Neil, one of the biggest ways that we are helping more kids right now and ensuring a good future is we started a training program because we've had so many people. We had this book called Joey that came out that's a national bestseller. It's about the beginnings of Hope Reins, one of our rescued horses that was blinded from starvation, and his amazing story. And we've had so many people call and say, "Will you help me get started?" And so we launched this year the first phase of a training program. And so we're helping other people, not only all over the US, but we have a lady in Iceland and Germany and different parts of the world, helping them get started so that more kids have access to hope and healing.
Because it doesn't have to be a horse.
It doesn't have to be a horse. I mean, that's kind of what we're training them on. It doesn't have to be a horse. There's lots of different ways to work with horses. Our sweet spot is working with kids in trauma and horses. Yes, it doesn't have to be a horse.
Just curious. I mean, it could be a koala. They sleep, I've heard, 22 hours a day, though, so I don't know how much
it could. Although
healing could
oh my gosh, the one
that.
lady's got the most beautiful Icelandic horses. They're absolutely gorgeous. So yeah.
So why horses, though? You mentioned it doesn't have to be a horse, but it's kind of good if it's a horse. What does the horse provide that maybe, again, I have had a bad experience on a horse.
Oh,
I had a Shetland pony incident.
Yes.
I was 9.
We have a Shetland pony too. I get it.
The saddle slipped and I broke my left elbow.
Oh, yeah.
And I was afraid to get on a horse. But my favorite horse
that
is a
wasn't
Mustang.
the horse's fault. Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite horse is a Mustang. The car included. But I don't know. I like the logo.
Beautiful.
They're gorgeous, right?
My son has a Mustang. It's pretty awesome. Horses, Neil, are so incredibly unique. I mean, there are so many studies about how simply being in their presence actually lowers your heart rate, your blood pressure. It helps you feel less depressed and anxious. You've heard the saying, don't let them know you're scared. Have you ever heard people say that?
I mean, I've heard that about dogs. I don't know about horses.
Yeah. Well, they say it about horses.
Okay.
And the reason they say that is horses can actually sense what you're feeling most of the time before you even know what you're feeling. So whatever you bring to the horse, they're going to sense that and feel it. And a lot of times they mirror it back. And so they make very powerful therapy partners. Our program is geared around, I mentioned the skill building. The 4 things that horses naturally teach humans are trust, communication, boundaries, and leadership. So our whole program is geared around teaching kids these basic skills by learning through these interactions how to trust and have good boundaries and what horses teach us in those things. So it's really, really cool.
So what is the greatest challenge facing Hope Reins at this point in time?
That's a great question. I think that we are entering we call it version 2.0 of where we're going and we're maturing as an organization. We're a mature organization. And I think figuring out how do we grow our capacity through this new training ministry is going to be really vital for us. We've got some capital projects on the property that we want to finish out that are going to help us. So we've got some fundraising to do. And so we're really praying through that and just waiting for the Lord to lead us in the right direction. But usually funding is it's like easy for God. It's hard for us to remain faithful and not be anxious.
Obviously, funding seems to always be the thing, whether it be in business, whether it be in youth ministry. From some friends of mine that play volleyball, their kids do, and they're like, hey, will you help sponsor so-and-so because the volleyball team needs the money? It seems like we in the world still unfortunately need money. With it being Christmas time, get your cocoa, get your scarf on.
Yes.
Christmas in North Carolina must be gorgeous. You could send me a picture of a tree maybe has snow on it. I don't know if you think about it.
Okay.
With Christmas in mind and it being next week.
Yeah.
What would be a greatest Christmas gift for Hope Reins?
Oh, man. We have 80 kids that are waiting to get into our program. 80 kids, new kids. That's not all the kids we're going to serve. We're going to serve almost 200, 80 brand new ones that are in the highest crisis that are waiting to get into our program. And it costs us about $18,000 for them to have a year. Kids come for the entire year weekly out to our program. And that's just cost of the ranch and horses and staff and feeding and all the operational things. And so we've got to raise about $1.4 million to fund those kids before the end of the year. So a great Christmas gift, not only for a child, would be to sponsor them to get into our program. You can do it as a gift for somebody else and say, I sponsored a kid in your honor for Christmas. Because really, what else do we really need at Christmas? Neil, more than 50% of the kids we serve live at or below the poverty line. They don't have anywhere else to go. They can't go to the therapist. They don't have anywhere else to go. And I didn't mention our program is completely free of charge for our families.
It makes me, when I talk to people in this type of ministry where they're helping people, sending need to Africa, sending things to Uganda. We had a gentleman come on last season that was sending medical supplies to Uganda and places like that. And it always makes me go, man, I need to do more. And then I walk into a shoe store, I log on to eBay and I'm like, oh, okay. Do I really need that other pair of shoes? Do I really need that next whatever? And I always talk myself into it. And then I forget about conversations like this.
Yeah.
And that's what hurts my heart. And I know you're not on here to make people feel guilty. That's not the
No,
whole
not at all.
intention. And it's not like you're doing this as a fundraising effort or anything like that. We wanted to know purposely why Hope Reins is providing a homecoming to people. And I think we're doing that today. And that's our focus, truly. There are needs. Let's just be honest. There are needs. Taught me very little, but one of the things he taught me is the answer is always no unless you ask. You mentioned your daughter already. We've kind of teased about her going to NC State, which she should have picked a better school, but it's fine. But for
She picked
you,
a better school, Neil.
I don't know about that. When you think about what she has seen in your life, when your daughter looks at you, and I know you're not in her shoes, you don't know what she's feeling or what she sees. Do you ever have a hope? I hope she caught this. I heard it years ago, more is caught than taught. And the idea that kids are catching things that we do. Again, I was making fun of myself. Can't be mad at my daughter when I'm doing the same thing with my phone. What do you hope your daughter and maybe your other kids have caught from you that they will then maybe carry on outside of you and what you are?
Well, if we had more time, I could tell you the stories of what God has done in 15 years because you can't make it up. I mean, it's the crazy, like just beyond what a human being can explain. And they've walked that journey and they know God is real. Jesus is real to them. My daughter is such a passionate follower of Jesus because of herself, not because of me. It's not my faith, it's hers. The big thing that they have caught is how big and great our God is and how much we need him in our life. Just the hope and the healing of Jesus and how he's really all that matters in life.
Because let's face it, they've been on the journey with you, as you said. They've been shotgunners.
They were tiny when we started. They were 6 and 4. So
wow.
Yeah, they were little.
They've seen it all.
Yeah, they have.
Now I would imagine, even in your own life, there were personal sacrifices that had to be made. Maybe the brand new prom dress didn't get purchased.
Yeah.
Maybe, hey, we can't do that because we have to do this. Again, I don't know what it would be. Ever feel like there was any resentment or anything like that from your kiddos?
No, I mean, I will say the beginnings, especially when they were so young. I mean, anytime you're starting something up, and I come more from an entrepreneur background, startup is hard, and Hope Reins took off so fast, and it's just been that way ever since. I never missed anything important, but I was busy. I was a busy mom. I really was, and it was not easy, starting up. No, I don't think there's any resentment. I think that they're very, very proud. In fact, my son, somebody came into his work recently, and I don't even know how they got on the topic. She said something about, oh, Hope Reins. Do you know about Hope Reins? And he's like, yeah, I know something about Hope Reins. So I think they tell me they're very proud, and people will randomly start talking to them about it. And they're kind of like, yeah, my mom works there. I won't let them ever say, my mom's the CEO. Like, you never tell anybody that. You just, here I work there, my mom works there. So
we'll keep it a secret. Kim is not the CEO. She's just a worker bee. Yeah.
We're trying to keep it humble in our house. So
I get in trouble a lot because I say a lot of we and us. And I had a friend recently say, who's the we and the us behind other people's shoes? You always say, well, we have been talking and we have been discussing. I said, well, there's my wife who has been on the show, so she's part of the we.
Yeah.
And I think of my relationship with Christ as he's the other we.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can't take credit for what's happened. I mean, I've been running to keep up with God since 2008.
Is there an end goal to Hope Reins? Is there such a thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think our end goal, again, Neil, like we want to maximize our ranch so that we can serve as many kids as we can. And I think we've got a little more growth that we can do. I think the bigger impact, like God gave us a big vision about 9 years ago of true hope and real healing for every child, of which I said no to initially. I was like, every child, like, how can that even happen? We're in Raleigh. And we didn't know about the Joey book, and we didn't know that people were going to start calling and asking us to train them. And we would love to have 200 ranches that we help launch across the country. We just want more kids to have access to hope and healing, because that's the way we're going to help the mental health crisis for kids.
If there was somehow I could give you all godly power for a moment, is there a way to cure this crisis that we're in?
Oh gosh, well, I guess if I had godly power, I would stop evil. God has a reason why he's doing what he's doing, and I'm not God, and I don't have that kind of wisdom. And so I have to trust whatever he's doing and wherever he's doing it is the best plan for all of us. You know, the one thing we didn't talk about is we really minister to the whole family at the ranch. And so we minister to our parents and caregivers. You are suffering, which is really terrible. You are so much more open and willing to have those conversations about Jesus and the Lord. And so it really, our suffering draws us, I think, pain and suffering draws us so much closer to the Lord.
What's been the most rewarding for you personally?
I don't know that I can name just one thing. I think it's just, I went through the Chick-fil-A drive-thru a little while ago, and I have a Hope Reins on my license plate, and this really sweet girl was taking my order. And when she saw my license plate, she goes, "Oh, Hope Reins. I went to that place. It saved my life." Probably, Neil, the long-term impact of the kids, like we're only profiling 15 right now. There have been thousands. Knowing that for me, the kid who didn't have access to hope and healing in my trauma, I don't want any kid to not have access to that. Grateful to be able to be a part of the healing and the restoration that the Lord's doing.
Do you have a favorite horse?
I do. Well, I have my own horse.
I assumed you had your own horse.
Yeah, she started with our program, and then it ended up, it was not for her. She's a one-woman horse. On our property, my favorite horse is named Zeb, and Zeb is a retired mounted patrol horse. He was on the Raleigh police force, and he is, you're going to love this, he's part Mustang and part Belgian. So he's like a draft horse. He's bigger. He was blinded in his left eye in an Amish carting accident. So he's just this big teddy bear and just has such a great story. He's just really incredible and amazing. I love him.
I'm very sad when I went out to North Carolina that I didn't know you guys were there.
I know. See, this is why you have to come back. So you have to come back to another game.
I have been lobbying. I've been proclaiming. I've been starting Twitter campaigns. If you could send a message to my wife, Elizabeth, who she says she listens every week, so this will be a good test.
Elizabeth,
what message would you send to her right now?
You got to come see the ranch. You've got to come see the ranch. We'll even go to a Wolfpack game. I had to get that in.
You did. I noticed that.
She might actually like that, coming to a Wolfpack game.
She wouldn't. She would feel not at rest because she doesn't like red either, just like I don't. But Kim, help us with this. We've obviously danced around and trotted around the arena, Hope Reins. How can people get connected if people want to know more of the story, if they feel in some way led to give?
Yeah.
How can they do all those things?
Yeah, well, they can go to our website, which is Hope Reins, and it's reins.org. A special gift that we have for your listeners is if you go to hopereins.org/podcast, they can actually download a free copy of the Joey book. So we're giving away free copies of the Joey book. We just want to get it into people's hands because then they share it and it becomes a really great thing.
And clearly the Wolfpack is making their presence known.
I know. I'm so sorry.
Don't
I
worry
think
about
my
that.
son is home with his dog, his lab.
Don't worry about that. It's all good. We love dogs in the background. I'm moved by what you shared. If there was maybe one message to put it all in a nutshell, nice little bow. Again, we're in that Christmas time season. We're wrapping things up. We're putting bows and streamers and ribbons on things. How would you put a bow on Hope Reins? For those that maybe are still like, I still don't really understand.
Well, I tell you, every year we hear the news stories. I mentioned those 80 kids, and we hear their stories and we think, Lord, I don't know how you're going to heal that, Lord. I just don't know. I've never heard anything like that before. And in 15 years, I can tell you, there is not anything that is outside the Lord's ability to heal, outside Jesus' abilities to heal. And people just need to know that and believe it, because we've seen it times several thousand over and over again.
And what he can do with the little, he can do a lot. That's
Absolutely.
been my experience, at least.
Absolutely.
Well, again, Kim, thank you so much for coming on. I think it's only appropriate we turn it over to our co-host who has created the most amazing game in the podcast universe. It's called Heal Hustle. So we're going to turn it over to Zach right now. Zach, take it away.
It's now that time in the show to play the fastest growing game in the podcast world. We call it Heal Hustle. Today our guest will try to answer all 6 of these questions in 60 seconds or less to win an Amazon gift card. Amazon not responsible for this commercial spot, nor did they pay to let us use their name. Audience, feel free to play at home. Are you ready? Let's put 60 seconds on that clock. Ready, set, hustle!
The game begins in 3.
Clearly, Zach has no time on his hands.
You didn't tell me there was going to be a cognitive test.
Yeah. Kim, one person you would trade places with for a week.
Oh my gosh. Michael Jordan.
Nice. Great pick. Guilty pleasure.
Ooh, chocolate.
Nice. Best compliment you've ever received.
I like your hair.
Oh, that's nice. Worst piece of advice you've ever received.
Oh my gosh. Just do it.
Sounds a little like MJ. What's something you wish you were better at?
Ooh, I wish I was better at painting.
Oh, who knew? All right. What's something that never fails to make you laugh really fast?
My son.
Aw. Great job.
And not always for a good reason.
I'm sure not always for a good reason.
He's 22. So
boys are boys. Yeah.
mhm.
Oh, that was fun. See, you did great. You did great. Nothing to worry about. Well, Kim, again, thank you. Thank you for your team. Your gal that was interacting with us was spot on. She was very timely. I want to give her a shout out and a kudo. She was really good and connecting us and staying connected with us and working with your schedule because it's hectic, I've heard. Yeah, and I just want to acknowledge that as well. Just thank you for giving us some time and really reining us into what Hope Reins is all about. I was trying to think of a horse storm.
There you go. You're reining in.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you. It's such an honor to be on and to be able to share what God's doing. And we really appreciate you featuring Hope Reins. And hopefully we will see you at the ranch.
That's my dream.
Okay.
That's my dream.
That's awesome.
All right, guys and gals, kids and campers alike. Yeehaw! I feel like that was timely. Saddle up your horses. We got a trail to blaze to the wild blue yonder. It's rare. I don't have the stat. I didn't put research on it, but I'm going to have to, I think. In the span of doing this show, almost 6 years now, we're close. We're like 3 weeks away from 6 years. Now, like 8 weeks. Who knows? 6-ish weeks. Who's counting? It's rare that a guest makes me weep. Stinking Kim. She did that. I'm not crying. You're crying. What just happened? What did you just hear? For me, I feel like some of us need to truly saddle up. In this time of year, in this season of giving, it's made me, in a moment, reevaluate my life. One person can do that. So I'm just wondering about what is reigning so much in your life that you have no room for hope? Just a question between friends, of course. Think about that. Let me know, because I'd be curious. If there are things in your life that have more power, more superiority than human life, it's time to flip the script. Time to really, truly saddle up and do something different. Let me know. OPSpodcast.com is a great place to let me know. You can also let us know on the socials at OPS Podcast Show under Facebook, Instagram, and X. And don't forget this. Remember, Merry Christmas to you. When you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. Thank you so much for listening. And stay tuned till next week. We have a special Christmas edition for you. Don't want to miss that. Stay tuned till next week when we walk in other people's shoes.